everyone. Today is Sunday, October 18th, 2009, and we have here the pleasure of being with Lynn Guarch Pardo, who is the daughter of Jorge Guarch, better known as George to us Pedro Pan children. And George Guarch was the person who used to meet the flights from Cuba that brought the unaccompanied children with the visa waivers to the United States. That program was later commonly called Operation Pedro Pan. My name is Eloísa Echazábal. I'm a Pedro Pan child, and here is my colleague.
My name is Carmen Romañach. I'm another Pedro Pan child, and we're going to start interviewing Lynn. Lynn, can you give us your full name and where you were born?
My full name is Lynn Guarch Pardo, or Lynn Susan Guarch Pardo. I was born here in Miami.
Okay. We wanted to know how old were you during the Pedro Pan days, the Operation Pedro Pan days?
When the flights started, I had just turned 5. So during the bulk of the arrival of the children, it was during the time I was 5 to 7 years old.
Okay, so you were very small.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to know a little bit about your family. What can you tell us about your family?
I have one brother that is 4 years younger than I am, who was a baby at the time of the flights. And that's my only sibling. My mother and father and I and my brother lived here all of our lives here in Miami.
Okay. And how about your family now?
Now I'm married. Pardo is my married name, and I have 3 children.
Okay. Thank you. We wanted to know about your father, George. You know about his name. We call him George. We wanted to know about his personality, and can you describe him as a person?
My father was very talkative. He was a very sociable person. He loved children. My parents were married 10 years before I was born, and I think they probably have more godchildren than anybody I know. He really enjoyed being around kids, loved to tell stories and play tricks on people. He always told you when he had, played a joke on you, but he enjoyed that. And just a very outgoing person.
I remember him because he met the flight that I came in on, and I remember him, and I know that he was a very warm person, very charismatic.
I think one of the things, because I hear children remember him as a very tall person, which he was not particularly tall. He was, I think, 5'10", but he had a very deep voice. And I think the deepness of his voice maybe added to, also the children were smaller. So but that was a characteristic that people would hear his voice later and recognize him by his voice.
It's amazing, you remember all this, and also he was like being in training since he was very young, being social and like kids, and so he was perfect for what he ended up doing.
Yes.
So, and I remember he gave me my first hamburger.
Oh, really?
So I remember eating it.
Did George maintain any contact with any of the Pedro Pan children over the years? We know that many children recognized him later on in life. And do you have any stories about this?
He did keep in touch. I remember, even as a child, as an older child, the Pedro Pan, every once in a while, a Pedro Pan child would come by the house and visit. He had stories. There were particular kids that he remembered, something about them when they first got off the plane, or, one of them is a physician, a very well-known gastroenterologist today. And my father always remembered that when he got off of the plane, the first thing he said was that his mother was a seamstress and that he wanted to become a doctor, and so that his mother wouldn't have to work any longer. And he did become a doctor. And through the years, I later found out that there were many more children that he kept in contact with that we weren't, or that I wasn't aware of, that would go to see him at work. After he stopped working for the Catholic Welfare Bureau, he worked for Ford for many years. And a lot of times, the Pedro Pan kids would go visit him at work or buy a truck from him, but he kept in contact with a lot of them.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
How do you think that George felt about the job that he did with us Pedro Pan kids?
I think he was very proud of the work that he had done. I think it was something that that wasn't just a job. You know, it was not a 9-to-5 job. There were many, many long hours where he would leave early in the morning and wouldn't be back until way past midnight. And I think it was something that he was proud that he had been able to be a part of and
contribute.
And contribute, and yeah, at a time that was, you know, needed.
It was more than a job.
More than a job.
We know that George kept a copy of the airport log to keep track of the children. Did you know if he had any plans with his records and any comments you have about it?
He had, what he had was a carbon copy, because in those days, of course, photocopies didn't exist. It was a carbon copy of the log that Monsignor kept through the years. And I remember him pulling it out, and when someone would come to visit, and he would find that child's name in the log. And I didn't know this until very recently. I was asking a Pedro Pan if they had a copy of their page, and the gentleman said, "Yes, your father gave it to me." So I didn't realize that he had also made copies and given children, you know, their copy, a copy of the page that had their name on it. That I had no awareness that he had done that.
Wow.
So I guess in later years.
Yes, so not only was it Monsignor and you that have given copies of the page to the particular Pedro Pan, but your dad began that practice. That's wonderful. Something I guess he wanted to share with the Pedro Pan that bit from that time.
There's it's funny because it's a very simple, you know, format. In fact, this is one of the pages. There's 3 like this, or one of the logs. But it's it's a very simple format, and it's all handwritten. I think, and all it has is the name of the child, a birth date, the type of visa that they came with, and then where they were staying. If they stayed within the care of the Catholic Church, it has Matecumbe or Florida City or Kendall. About half of the children were received by family or friends, and it has, you know, who received them when they arrived here. But it's funny or interesting. It's not funny. Watching and listening to people's reaction when they see this for the first time. I always kind of try to prepare them, because it's not a document that looks very official or has a lot of information on it, but it impacts the Pedro Pans in almost across the board. There's something about it that has a connection there that touches them.
Yeah.
Because that was done the day of arrival. So
this was at the airport. Upon arrival, this was at the airport, the first documentation of their arrival here in the United States.
So it's a little bit of that day.
So I would say most of the airport log was in your father's handwriting.
Most of it is. Occasionally there would be other people that that would help, and then and I have an uncle that also, for a short period of time, one of my father's brothers worked, and his handwriting is very similar to my father's, but most of it is in his handwriting.
Yeah, you have told me you can recognize when
Yeah,
your
the
father and your uncle.
between my
remember,
father and my
yeah.
uncle. Yeah, but it's not easy.
So we know you have been involved also sending the Pedro Pan children their copies of the airport log page when they have requested it from you. How do you feel about this, and why is it important for you as well?
I've enjoyed doing it through the years for a lot of reasons. One of them is that it's very enjoyable to go through and look at my father's handwriting every time I open the page. And actually, once I heard that he had been giving out the pages or copies of the page, I've enjoyed doing it even more since then.
And
it's kind of continuing the legacy. Yeah, but I think because I see the reaction of the Pedro Pans, it's a connection. It's a connection to my father, and it's a connection to that whole era, a lot of which I don't remember, but I've heard, you know, so many stories through the years, and when I meet Pedro Pans and they tell me, oh, I remember, you're like, you just, you know, gave you your first hot hamburger. So it's just a nice connection to continue that, and I'm very big on history and genealogy and that kind of research. So it's a little bit of your personal history that it completes, you know, in some ways.
And let me tell you that we are so grateful for your doing that and for doing other things that you have been doing to continue the job that your dad started and to preserve the legacy of his legacy.
For me, it's also
and to us, it's so beautiful. We really appreciate that.
We really appreciate that, and you know that knowing that you are the daughter of the person who picked us up is very.
It's like a continuation.
Yeah, it's a continuation. Obviously, it was not 9 to 5.
Yeah.
They got a good bargain there. They're still working. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got sidetracked, but it was very,
How about Monsignor Walsh? Did you meet Monsignor Walsh? And can you tell us a little about him?
As a child, I know that I met him, but I don't remember. As an adult, yes, he was very gracious when my father passed away, and he celebrated the funeral mass and spoke about his recollections, you know, and the time that they had spent together, and it was very emotional and very touching for us. I've always found him a very pleasant person, very easy to relate to, and I enjoyed the time that I got to know him as an adult, as part of the Pedro Pan. I got to know him really as part of the Pedro Pan, as you guys have all reunited.
Lynn, when did your dad pass away?
He passed away May the 13th, 1991.
1991. If George were able to talk to the children now, the Pedro Pan children, what do you think he would tell us? And also yourself, is there a message that you would like to send to the Pedro Pan? First, your dad. What do you think that?
I had the opportunity many years ago to listen to him speak to a group of Pedro Pans, and what he said was, I think, very much similar to the message that I hear people remember the day that he picked them up as they were traveling to whichever one of the group homes they were going to, one of the shelters. Some people remember him talking about how they were now in the United States and that they had to represent their country, Cuba, in a very good way, that they had to be brave and strong and make their parents proud. And when I heard him speak later to a group of Pedro Pans as adults, his feeling was that, number one, he was very impressed with the resilience, I think, of the children in handling such difficult moments, being separated and being young and being in a place where many of them didn't speak the language. But his feeling was that the Pedro Pans had done so well, that he was so proud of how they had overcome the obstacles in their path. And he made the comment that, you know, all of them had turned out so well. And I think he was very proud of that, and I think that's a message that he would reiterate, that he was very proud of how well you all had done.
So is there something that you may want to add yourself?
For the Pedro Pans, for me, have been very special. When my father passed away, it was very difficult. It was very unexpected. And whenever someone thanks me, I thank the group because, I'm sorry.
We don't feel the same way.
It was such a help to me to get through my father's death, because Pedro Pans came out of the woodwork and everybody had a story to tell me about my father, something that they remembered about either the initial meeting or later on in life. And it was very comforting to me to feel that he had made a difference in all of your lives when you were you were small, and it helped me get through a very difficult personal time in our life. But I realized that he had made a big difference to a lot of people, and I guess, you know, that was something that helped me let go of him and accept, you know, that he was in a better place, but he had made a big difference in many people's lives. As a daughter, of course, he made a big difference in my life and in my brother's life, but so I've always appreciated the way that the Pedro Pans have shared the stories with us that we would never have known about, because my father talked a lot, but he didn't talk a lot about, you know, that kind of personal thing, nor would he have remembered, because, you know, there were so many. But it was, I've always appreciated that. That was a very special, very sad, but very wonderful in hearing all the stories that all of the kids remember.
Lynn, and we really appreciate your sharing, you know, all of your thoughts and this conversation with us. And now, as you know, the next conversation is going to be with your mom, Peggy, and we're looking forward to speaking with her. And thank you very much, Lynn. And again, I just wanted to repeat that today is Sunday, October 18th, 2009. And thanks again, Lynn, for being here with us.
It's been a pleasure to share this
welcome.
with you.